play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear words.
It makes no sense.
We gotta, it's just, but you gotta, I mean, we gotta reassure, look,
it makes no sense.
And in addition to that, we have to make sure that we are in a position that we are.
It makes no sense.
We choose unity over division. We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts. That's like just flat out acknowledging we've been doing everything we can do to keep Biden from being the nominee, and guess what? We tried it in Iraq. It's not working, so now we're going to try, in Iran, we tried in Ukraine. The Senate, as of 10 minutes before I got in this call, this is for the program, I will make an education that, in fact, Jill, my wife, is a professor at a community college.
Well, I'd like to welcome John to the show. John, thanks for being here, pal.
Thank you, sir. Honored to be here.
Well, the fact is that there's a lot going on. I don't know even where to begin this, but being part of the Soul of the Nation Saturday. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and thank all the folks you heard from earlier in the beginning of this event. The reason why we lost the Congress in 2016 was because of Obamacare, remember? And by the way, it probably was. People didn't know what it was. My granddaughter, my other three granddaughters are down in Dubuque with my wife, Jill. And so, in Des Moines, I'm in Dubuque, in Des Moines, and with my wife, Jill. 3,900 of them right here in the state of South Carolina.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Please come back in less than 13 years, sir.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
Chris. I just did Chris. No, I just did Chuck.
What is the Whataburger of Delaware or Philadelphia? What's the Geno's? Or one of the
In-N-Out. That's the closest to it. There's a lot of McDonald's, there's a lot of Burger Kings, a lot of but I think the In-N-Out is the closest. Folks, now we need to stand behind Jamie Harrison, the next president of the next senator, South Carolina. Well, I'm looking forward to appointing the first African-American woman to the United States Senate. You get a tax break for a racehorse. Why in God's name couldn't we provide a $8,000 tax credit for everybody who has child care costs? It would put 720 million women back in the workforce. What I talked about is how you get things done. And the way to get things done is take a look at the tax code right now. The idea, we have to start rewarding work, not just wealth. I would eliminate the capital gains tax. I would raise the capital gains tax to the highest rate of 39.5%. I would double it. Because guess what? Why in God's name should someone who's clipping coupons in the stock market pay a lower tax rate than someone who, in fact, is, like I said, a school teacher and a firefighter? It's ridiculous, and they pay a lower tax.
If you are the nominee, will you consider either Beto O'Rourke or Julian Castro as a running mate?
Yes, I would. I consider either or both of them. But look, I've spoken to each of them, and I've spent some time talking to them. My plea to both of them is that they stay engaged. They are talented people, and there are a number of Latinos that have endorsed our former Secretary of Interior, a whole lot of people who are going to. I can guarantee you that there's going to be Latinos in my cabinet. I guarantee you there's going to be Latinos in my White House, and both of them are qualified. It's great to be in Georgetown. What a beautiful, beautiful town. And
And this building is magnificent. You know, we have a place called Georgetown, Delaware, that was founded in the 1600s. And it is a little like your town. It is the center of the county in the sense, and it is literally the figurative and literal center of the southern county. I've been doing this. I hate to acknowledge it, but how you doing, man? Great to see you. This is one of the leaders in Massachusetts. This is a really, 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 really fine man. Anyway, so thanks for being here. Speaking of loyalty, God love you. Thank you. But at any rate, the fact is that I even forgot what the hell I was going to say. Excuse my language. I'm back. I've been here a number of times. Last time was, I think, all the way back in 2014. But I've been here before that. I love this place. Look, what's not to like about Vermont in terms of the beauty of it? And what a neat town. I mean, this is sort of a scenic, beautiful town. The mayor's been a good guy, and everybody's been really friendly. Just like in my generation, when I got out of school, that when Bobby Kennedy and Dr. King had been assassinated in the 70s, late 70s, I got engaged. Look what's going on in Venezuela right now. What are we doing? We're being irresponsible. I'm the guy that put together Plan Colombia. Straighten that government out for a long while. Now what's happening? Millions of people are crossing the border, destabilizing Bolivia. Already destabilizing the Amazon, but, Brazil. Dealing with what's going on in Colombia. And what are we doing? We're sitting here with our thumb in our ear. Why do we think populist movements occur? And so there's two things we got to do. We have to move immediately back to reestablish all those standards we had to begin with when we left office and significantly add to them. And the way you do that is, for example, you are in the state of Ohio. And you want to check my shape on, let's do push-ups together, man. Let's do this one, let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take my push-ups. Number two. No one has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion. And no one has ever said it. Now, I don't say you were doing anything wrong. You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
That's what I read here on MSNBC.
Oh, we don't hear that on MSNBC. We did not hear that at all. What you heard? Look, okay, I'm not going to get around with you, man.
No, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do, but look, here's the deal. Here's the deal.
It looks like you don't have any more backbone than Trump does. So let him talk.
Any other questions?
Yeah, all right. I'm not voting for you.
Well, I knew you were, man. You think I thought you stand with both of me? You're too old to go for me. Because, look, the fact is that there's a lot of things of speeches I've made, positions I've taken, interviews that I did overseas with people, all of those things relating to my job. And the idea that they would all be made public in the fact while I was running for public office, they could be really taken out of context. Their papers are position papers. They are documents that existed and that when for example, when I met with Putin or when I met with whomever, and all of that to be fodder in a campaign at this time, I don't know of anybody who's done anything like that. And so the National Archives is the only place there would be anything having to do with personnel records. There are no personnel records in the Biden papers at the university.
So, personnel records aside, are you certain there was nothing about Tara Reid in those records? And if so,
I am absolutely certain.
Why not approve a search of her name in those records?
Approve a search of her name?
Yes, and reveal anything that might be related to Tara Reid in the University of Delaware records.
There is nothing. They wouldn't. They're not there. And if I don't understand the point you're trying to make.
The point I'm trying to make is that
there are no personnel records by definition.
The point I'm trying to make is that you are approving and actually calling for a search of the National Archives records of anything pertaining to Tara Reid. I'm asking why not do the same in the University of Delaware records, which have raised questions because they were supposed to be revealed to the public and then they were sealed for a longer period of time. Why not do it for both sets of records?
Because the material in the University of Delaware has no personnel files, but it does have a lot of confidential conversations that I had with the president about a particular issue, that I had with the heads of state of other places, that would not be something that would be revealed while I was in public office or while I was seeking public office. It just stands to reason, to the best of my knowledge, no one else has done that either.
I'm just talking about her name, not anybody else in those records. A search for that. Nothing classified with the president or anybody else. I'm just asking, why not do a search for Tara Reid's name in the University of Delaware records?
Look, I mean, who does that search?
The University of Delaware. Perhaps you set up a commission that can do it. I don't know. Whatever is the fairest way to create the most transparency.
Well, look, Mika, she said she filed a report. She has her employment records still. She said she refiled a report with the only office that would have a report in the United States Senate at the time. If the report was ever filed, it was filed there, period.
You have an incredible obligation, not to me at all, to yourselves. Because what you do here in Iowa.
So what do? We went out and got an organization. If you're a business person and you want to get a tech person, you go to this particular organization. We said, come in and find us people who can do this job. And through a program we had through community colleges, we said, look, put together a program for us where we can teach people how to code. So they went out literally into the hood and they turned out 54, they had to be all women, the vast majority were women of color, no one with more than a high school degree, ages 24 to 54, and almost a third of them only had a GED. Not just to rebuild the economy, but to transform it, to make our economy more resilient, whatever comes our way in the future. Making sure everyone has paid sick leave and child care support. Remaking our system of unemployment insurance into employment insurance to help people to keep their jobs and get them in the first place. Putting millions of people to work, building a new green economy that will position us to own the 21st century.
Just be straight up. If I'm your president, for me it starts here in my gut, goes to my heart, and then I articulate it. I don't trust people who, in fact, stay with me if it starts here and doesn't ever work its way down to the heart. Just people who are high school degrees, who bust their neck. It's because I believe with every fiber of my being, and I really mean it, that my dad used to always say, everybody's entitled to be treated with dignity. Not a joke. Not a joke. Ask any reporters. Ever see me walk by anybody in the street and I'd say hi to them? Or somebody begging for money? I haven't any money, but, just treat people with dignity. It's one of the things when I talk about restoring the soul of the country.
Americans are terrified. What is your message to them?
My message is that the president has to move more rapidly. We know from experience that speed matters. We know that you can't go too fast. It's about going too slow. And in order to avoid those very high numbers, we have to do at least several things. One, we have to depend on what the president's going to do right now. And first of all, he has to wait till the cases before anything happens. Look, the whole idea is
he's got to get in place things that we're shortages of. We're not testing enough people. Our first responders, docs and nurses don't have the gloves, the masks. They don't have the equipment they need. We're short on ventilators. And as this spreads to other areas, and which is likely to do, we don't have the capacity to surge the equipment that they need. He has to use the Defense Production Act much more aggressively, including not just in ventilators, but getting gloves, masks, shields, gowns, etc.
And the move by the Justice Department last week to dismiss the case against him for lying to the FBI. The president said yesterday that that move is justified because President Obama targeted Flynn. He called it, quote, the biggest political crime in U.S. history. Your former Senate colleague Charles Grassley has added that Flynn was entrapped and asked on the Senate floor, what did Obama and Biden know? When did they know it? So what did you know about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, and was there anything improper done?
I know nothing about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, number one. Number two, this is all about diversion. This is a game this guy plays all the time. The country is in crisis. We're in an economic crisis, a health crisis. We're in real trouble. He should stop trying to always divert attention from the real concerns of the American people. The American people are worried with good reason. He has acted irresponsibly from the very beginning. He continues to act irresponsibly. He hasn't done his job. This is all about diverting attention from the horrible way in which he has acted with what he did. We don't have coronavirus because of him, but we have the devastating impact of it because of his lack of a policy, his lack of action. It's all about diversion.
I do want to press that. You say you didn't know anything about it, but you were reported to be at a January 5th, 2017 meeting where you and the president were briefed on the FBI's plan to question Michael Flynn over those conversations he had with the Russian ambassador Kislyak.
No, I thought you asked me whether or not I had anything to do with him being prosecuted.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I was aware that they asked for an investigation, but that's all I know about it, and I don't think anything else. Look.
The president has been critical of the administration, of you, President Obama, and you, saying that they inherited, antiquated guidelines, and also there are other experts who did warn after 2009 that medical equipment like life masks, that the masks were depleted after the swine flu outbreak. Should the Obama administration have done more to replenish the supplies in preparation for future outbreaks?
Well, we spent a lot of time. I was not part of it.
We have to make sure everyone has access to maintain affordable health insurance coverage. We should be making it easier, not harder, to make sure make sense to, I'll put it another way. It makes no sense.
Did Senator Sanders provide input on a possible VP pick?
No, he didn't. But as I said, the context was I talking to him about who I should pick or whether I should pick. It's anything like that. Look, Bernie has an incredible following. Bernie's one of probably a half a dozen people in American history who may not be the nominee, but has had an impact on American politics in a significant way, in a positive way. And so if I'm the nominee, I can tell you one thing. I would very much want Bernie to be part of the journey, not as a vice presidential nominee, but just engaging in all the things that he's worked so hard to do, many of which I agree with. Well, look, what I have been saying is that he's moving too slow. The virus is not his fault. But the response is his responsibility. One of the things that I think we keep coming back to, and I've spent this morning talking to the docs that used to work with Sanjay in our last administration and heads of other entities, it gets down to testing. It's about testing, tracing, and treatment. And still we're way behind on the testing piece. And I don't quite understand why we're taking so
so long to do the kinds of things that have to be done. There's during World War II, where Roosevelt came up with a thing that was totally different than he called it the World War II. He had the War Production Board. Well, I don't know why we don't set up something like a pandemic production board.
Is there a point where Bernie Sanders is no longer playing a productive role in this Democratic primary?
Well, look, Bernie Sanders has poured his heart and soul into this campaign. He has moved the ball along on a number of issues that relate to what government's responsibilities are. And I think it's up to Bernie to make the judgment whether or not he should stay in the race or not stay in the race. It's not my judgment to make for him. But I think he's had a real impact. He's brought a lot of people into the process that weren't in it before. And so I think it's a tough decision for Bernie to make. And so science matters. And all Dale's been saying, Governor Wolf, is listen to the scientists. I've been able to also pick up the phone and call a lot of the people around the country and around the world I haven't had a chance to spend that much time in the last year and a half doing. And whether it's world leaders or close friends, to get their sense of what they think we should be doing going into and coming out of this god-awful pandemic. I've gotten to read more on a regular basis than I have before. I read a lot of political history.
Well, I've been reading too. I actually finally got to read all of Michelle Obama's biography, which is great.
Pretty good, isn't it? And that's why, for example, calling out the retired medical personnel from the United States military who are raising their hands saying, we'll go in and help. The University of Pennsylvania, where I taught, where they graduated all their med students early so they could now go in and help in hospitals now. And this is a man who, when I called Pete when he got out, which surprised me, when he said he was going to suspend his campaign, I didn't ask Pete to endorse me, but I called him and told him that we needed him to stay engaged. We needed him badly to be involved. Because when he talked in the campaign and the debates about passing the torch to the next generation, that's absolutely essential.
Do you think we'll have a candidate by the Memorial Day?
Well, my guess is we probably will. I don't make that guarantee, but by that time, this nominating process is, because of the good graces of Bernie Sanders and others, has ended earlier than it usually does, even though we've not had a convention yet. I'm quite sure that'd be the case, because right now the convention is scheduled in August before Memorial Day. Are you saying Memorial or Labor?
I said Memorial Day.
Oh, no. It won't be before Memorial Day. No, it won't. We're just getting the process underway.
4th of July?
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to make that commitment.
All right.
We have an opportunity now to take in a recovery act, a real recovery. We can fundamentally change the science relating to global warming.
And I got to be honest with you, over the last 2 weeks or so, I've had a lot of people ask me online every single day, where is Joe Biden? As a candidate for president, are you making yourself visible enough, especially during this crisis? Because it is a fine line to walk. You certainly don't want to be seen as the candidate who is politicizing a pandemic when Americans face this crisis.
Everything that I have done has been designed to be constructive. You may recall I was the first one to call for the president way back in January 17th to take this seriously. A real serious crisis has come, in an article I wrote. I talked about doing the Defense Production Act before anyone came along. I put together a group of people who are outside experts who don't adhere to any party. They've served for 4 different presidents. And I'd fully implemented the Defense Production Act to get all the data, all the information that's needed, all the gloves, the masks, all the things that our first responders and docs and nurses need. We have to invest more money in dealing with pandemic research, dealing with viruses, dealing with studies relating to what these viruses are likely to be in the future. There's more than one coronavirus. This COVID-9 is one strain of that. They had to put themselves in a position where they started off in debt, where they weren't able to buy a home home. They weren't able to go out and buy a car because of the debt they inherited, because of what happened with everything from the H1, anyway, because of viruses, because of the concern we had with the financial collapse. And then look, and a lot of them lost a lot in the meantime.
What makes you the best post-COVID-19 choice?
Well, that's a kind of a presumptuous thing to say for me to answer. But we went through in our administration the H1N1 virus. We also dealt with the whole pandemic that was in Africa, kept it under control by, doing what I urged the president to do months ago, and he's doing now, get the United States military in, building hospitals. Remember, the president promised not long ago that there'd be in the CVC parking lots and Walgreens parking lots, and I forget the other one he mentioned, there would be testing sites that were all set up in those parking lots to be ready to go, and they'd be done in the hundreds, et cetera. And look, it's been done. We're going to get the election results about another week or so after this. I forget the date, the 13th. And I think that I think if there is an election, if there was an election, if people, depending how many showed up, I think I will have done well, but who knows? We're going to find that out.
That's another issue. But we're going to finally achieve comprehensive immigration reform as well, put millions of citizens on a pathway to citizenship, including so many who are on the front lines right now.
Supply of those N95 masks, 96 masks. I have to admit to you, I was not only surprised, but somewhat stunned. Although I had met Sully and his wife at an event in Los Angeles back in the spring, late fall, late spring, late winter, early fall, anyway, you know what I mean. Back in California.
And for example, tests. We're in a situation where we have tests that are not being distributed, number one, because there's no one person, no commander in the White House or the administration like a military commander determining distribution of what is available.
Mr. Vice President, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you. And I just realized all this time I'm looking at you and I'm supposed to be looking at the camera. So they probably think at home.
I had the same thing. I'm looking straight at you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And folks, but to unify this nation, we first have to unify our party. And over the past week, we've gone a long way toward doing that. Mayor Pete, Senator Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke, Senator Booker, Senator Harris, Mayor Bloomberg, they have done something that I think the press is perplexed with as much as I am, that they've all come out and endorsed one. The government, the federal government, is in charge. The president says he's a wartime president. This is a war against his virus. He should act like a wartime president. He should have someone else in charge with him, making sure all these things get implemented. It's not like we didn't know this was coming. The president dismantled almost all of that, and he drastically cut the budgets for the CDC. He drastically cut the budget for anyway. So he didn't follow through on any of what we suggested was a real problem. I insisted that I didn't insist. I suggested that we should have people in China at the outset of this event. And when it all started in Wuhan province, and what happened? We did not insist that they go into the areas we wanted to. So I just, that's all I can do is do what I know has to be done, say what I know has to be done. Thanks for having me.
So President Trump was asked whether or not a federal lockdown will be instituted, and he has said thus far that they are leaving it up to the states. What do you think? Should all 50 states issue stay-at-home orders to stop the spread of this thing?
Well, I think that that is a matter that we should listen to the scientists, folks like Dr. Fauci and others. And my guess is you're going to see it happening more and more and more. One of the things we know is that it spreads with contact, to state the obvious. And one of the things that helps is we have to do three things quickly. One, get more tests out there to find out who has the coronavirus. You had Vice President Pence saying several weeks ago there'll be 4 million tests out there. We're nowhere near that now.
In addition to that, we have to make sure that we're able to follow, like they did in South Korea, which brought down the numbers, follow those who are infected, who they had spoken to, who had they not spoken to, who they had come in contact with, so we can track it back down so it doesn't re-erupt. And but you notice most of the states are moving in that direction now, Tennessee and others did today, and I think that's going to be where we're going to end up.
But I hope that these task forces will come together, utilizing the best minds and people in your campaign and in my campaign to work out real solutions to these very, very important problems. So look forward to working with you and bringing some great people into those task forces.
Well, Bernie, I want to thank you for that. It's a big deal. I think that your endorsement means a great deal. It means a great deal to me. I think people are going to be surprised that we are apart on some issues, but we're awfully close on a whole bunch of others. And I think you've made. If I am the nominee, which it looks like now, you just made me. I'm going to need you, not just to win the campaign, but to govern. We have an opportunity, Chris, to do so many things now to change some of the structural things that are wrong, some of the structural things we couldn't get anybody's attention on. In a sense, no pun intended, the Band-Aid's been ripped off here. Everybody now understands that we have a voting system that is not transparent and clear and available for everyone. Everyone understands that the environment has impacted on this coronavirus and mounting evidence of that. Everyone understands that we have to lead the world. We can't just sit back because no one else will. Anyway.
I got a question for you before we go, because I know I got to get running, but are Fig Newtons your favorite snack?
Well, they're among the favorite. You know why? They're small and I can sneak them. You can buy little packs of them, and I get them on the planes when I fly back and forth. But the thing that everybody makes fun of me, that when in doubt, I have a peanut butter jelly sandwich. But I learned everybody was making fun of that, and I found out John Kerry has the same addiction. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Peanut butter jelly sandwich is always good. My daughter and I enjoyed it when you were in Michigan and you shared your Fig Newtons with us.
That's right. I had some then. I remember that. Yeah, I always have little packs of them with me. Well, anyway, thank you. Thank you very much, Gov. I look forward to working with you and doing this again.
These viruses, George, they have no borders. You can't build a wall. You can't have, people at the border trying to stop it. It's beyond that capacity. You have to know what's coming, where it's coming from, and how to deal with it. Based on the latest data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, that's the premier outfit we have in the federal government, it is also clear that young people need to practice social distancing and self-isolation for their own personal protection. According to a report last week of what they call, COVID-19, which is a coronavirus, infections that require hospitalization in the United States, nearly 40% were among people aged 20 to 54. But to your point, it's critical of the president not resort to fear-mongering and also baseless downplaying or lying about the situation. The president needs to be honest, needs to follow the science, needs to be transparent with the American people. And we need information for people, not to scare them, but to get people to pull together, because that's how we're going to beat this. And together, and by the way, Ali, your generation is the best educated, most informed, most engaged education in American history, our group in American history. And we just have to give you all the information that is necessary. Not just you, not just your generation, the entire American public. And so I really think that, look, we're going to beat this. We're going to beat this. Enforce the law. They don't have enough people even checking. I've been calling for that since I decided to run. OSHA should immediately release and enforce more specific, quote, emergency temporary standards that requires employees to guard against infectious diseases like COVID-19.
And my granddaughter, who's graduating, I was supposed to be her commencement speaker at Columbia Law School this year, but it's got to be virtual now. But she and her boyfriend put together a site, a website, how you can make sure you can know what you're eligible for in the Cures Act. It's really gotten a lot of wide publicity, and I mean not publicity, viewership.
Look, you have an entire generation of young people beginning back in 2000 when the attack occurred on 9/11 that in fact have been behind the 8 ball from the time they got out of school, whether it was high school or college. We ended up in a situation where we had the Great Recession. I know people are worried, not just if you or your loved one are going to get sick. You're worried about how you're going to make the rent, worried about how to pay the bills, keep food on the table, worried about when the relief checks are going to come through that have been voted by the Congress. You know, that's the key part of the 10-point, what I call a make-work checklist that I put together last week and offered to the President of the United States, President Trump. On January the 17th, I think, I wrote an article for one of the major press outlets saying that we had to begin to act now. We knew what was happening in China. We talked, guys like me, and I'm not the only one, others, talked about the need to employ the Defense Authorization Legislation Act to be able to move. Thirdly, we're going to have an opportunity, I believe, in the next round here to use my green economy, my Green Deal, or to be able to generate both economic growth and consistent with the kind of infusion of monies we need into the system to keep it going. One of the ways to make sure these jobs are available that may get lost or hurt in the meantime is to provide the kind of jobs that are prevailing wages where people are making $45, $50 an hour plus benefits by building new infrastructure. We're going to need new infrastructure going down the road here, and it's a way to generate economic growth. That's going to be, I think, the next round we have to be looking at. We should be making those masks. We should be moving on those ventilators. We can do that. Why doesn't he just act like a president? That's a stupid way to say it.
You know, Donald Trump was asked
on... Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, probably best I don't. Medicare doesn't fix that. My plan, the Obamacare that I build on, would take care of it all in terms of the billing and all those things that are concerned about what it's going to cost them. But it does not solve the underlying problem. Where do you go? Who do you talk to? What information do you get? That is not something that if anyone on Medicare today, let me put it this way, anybody's on Medicare today, okay, they have Medicare. Do you think they're any less concerned? The fact that an elderly person who's worried about or is in a nursing home and has Medicare or is working in a way that all their bills are covered from Medicare, they're saying, well, I'm okay, don't worry about this. It goes well beyond that. And again, I don't think Bernie or I should try to turn this into a debate about Medicare for all or Biden plan building on Obamacare. It's much beyond that right now. It's about reinstilling some confidence and being prepared. We are not prepared, and there's things we should be doing. And by the way, the fact that the United States Congress said, Democrats and Republicans said, wait a minute, we have to fund this. We have to get the money out there now. Well, I mean, it goes well beyond a plan. It goes beyond what structures exist in society today, in the United States of America, to deal with this problem. What are they? And what I'd be doing is convening the top experts in the country all together, including the private sector, and say, okay, what are you going to be doing in your place of business that, in fact, if we do have open up sectors of the economy, that it's going to be less likely anybody's going to be able to spread this disease? I would be making sure that we brought in OSHA to figure out how we can do protection for workers on the job when we get, no matter what the job is. But most of all, Willie, I think you'd have to say to people, you know, look, we're going to make sure that mainstream can open back up, and when it does, you're going to have a job. That's why these programs that have been, the so-called CARES Act that got passed, the money has to get to ordinary people.
ordinary people and ordinary small businesses. Those people employing 2, 5, 10, 20 people. I know we have to help 500, small businesses of 500 or less.
Being the public option, providing for the additional funding that would provide for no hidden bills, etc. And I can get it done, I can get it done quickly, and people will be covered. But even I can't do that for another a year between now and November, or actually January. But to be covered, which means that they can't build any factories or anything within 1 mile of the estuary of the Delaware River and the Atlantic Ocean and Chesapeake. And so the whole point of this is that we can do a lot to deal with endangered species. And one of the things I would like to raise is that we have to deal with this on an international basis as well. Because right now, for example, we have a thing, Brazil has the Amazon is burning because they're trying to clear the Amazon in order to make money in agriculture. We can put politics aside and meet the moment like governors all across this nation are doing. Governor Mike DeWine in Ohio, Governor Larry Hogan in Maryland, Governor Charlie Parker in Massachusetts, Gavin Newsom in California, Jay Inslee in Washington, hard hit, Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan. Number 2, the fact is that the first 2 states are important, but they don't determine the outcome. Number 3, we haven't had a debate yet. We have a minute, 15-second assertions. You call these debates? I've been in debates. I debated Paul Ryan. I debated that woman from Alaska who could see Russia. Okay? I did pretty well. There were debates. You could answer questions. Look, folks, come on. And from the very beginning, the good news was the bad news. I've been the front runner all the way through. So guess what? I knew it. I got this great big target on my back. I'm not complaining. It's just a reality. And so what do? Are you still kicking your dog? You got 15 seconds to answer. Come on. We're going to get to debates pretty soon, I hope. Real debates. Where we can actually have exchanges on the merits and on the fundamental and the details of what we're talking about. I'm not suggesting that. And by the way, again, figuratively speaking, raise your hand if you think 15 of these debates make a lot of sense, or 20 or 90 or whatever happened. But look, it's what they are. So you play by the rules that are set at the time. Even though the rules seem to be changing a little bit. If I'm Julio Castro or I'm a couple other guys, they didn't change the rules to allow me to stay on the debate stage. But now the rules get changed to put someone else on the debate stage, and in the primary he can't even run it. Look, it's what it is. You deal with what's before you. As my dad would say, never explain and never complain. But the fact is, I think it's a little bit of an exaggeration. And you notice, I don't know what happened last night, but every other debate, the numbers have dropped. Maybe they skyrocketed last night. I don't know. But I haven't seen them. I know you'll all know what it was. It was number 1? They went up a little bit, yeah. So how many people, roughly? 7.9 million. Now, come on, guys. Bullshit. Now, notice us. Support the second. Just like right now, you yell fire, that's not free speech. I have shotgun, I have 1 game, 12 games, my son's hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own anyway. I'm not taking it away at all. You need 100 rounds? I did not say that. That's not true. I did not say that. It's a viral video like the other ones that came out there. Check it live.
Well, he just clarified it.
Wait. Take your AR-14s.
Okay, this is not okay. Hold on. And let's keep moving. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys wanting this.
I'm not worried. Hold on. Give me a break. Hey. Look, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Are you able to own a machine gun? I said, are you able to own one?
Machine guns are illegal.
That's right. So AR-15's illegal.
I was out of the machine gun.
No, it's not.
Semi-automatic.
Yeah, do you need 100 rounds? Do you need 100 rounds?
In America with handguns than there are when you own assault rifles. Why are you advocating for assault rifles when people are dying like
Well, one of my questions was, as far as Joe Biden is concerned, what exactly will he do to accommodate those of us who are Bernie Sanders supporters? If we're going to turn from Bernie to him, what is he going to do to satisfy us?
Bernie and I agree on a whole range of issues. We agree on the essence of how to proceed on the issue of climate change. We agree on education. We have a disagreement on how rapidly we can move toward universal health care. But what I'm going to do is Bernie and I are going to work together. And if he's the nominee, I commit that I will support him heavily throughout, do everything I can. And he said the same thing. And but we, across the board, there's a whole range of things we agree on, from dealing with student debt to making sure everyone has adequate health care, affordable health care, and that those who can't afford it get it for free. Find ourselves in a position where we reunite the world by going and dealing with our allies and let them know our word can be kept, making sure that those who are adversaries know that we're back and we're going to keep our sacred commitments to our allies. We're going to work in the direction of making sure that we make sure that everyone, in fact, has access to education. We're going to, for example, one of the things that I think Bernie and I will agree on, I'm going to endorse, I've endorsed Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy proposal, which in fact goes further, allows for student debt to be relieved in bankruptcy, provides for a whole range of other issues that allows us to, in fact, impact on how people are dealing with their circumstances. So there's a whole range of things we agree on. But I would hope that they would take a look and this be a matter of alternatives. You know, you may not agree with every detail that I propose, but the fact is that it's awfully difficult to conclude that I'm anywhere near Donald Trump. My team, and I believe the people back...
Your staffer is very happy. What do you need to do there?
Well, I'm sure we can do better on the internet. I'm positive of that. But the fact is that we're trying. Recent events, the Instagram question answer with one of the leading soccer players in the world, the latest episode of Here's the Deal podcast with Andrew Young,